Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast. Quick picks video for UFC Fight Night. Blanchfield taking on Barber over at the Apex. And as always, I'm going to give you a full card breakdown in 15 minutes or less with a confidence level traffic light system at the bottom. And if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button as we get right into the picks. And first up, we have Ardelene taking on Renier dos Santos. And I'm going to ever so slightly lean here to dos Santos. This one's a really, really tough one. I think the odds are kind of way off on this one. They have Santos as a 3-1 favorite. I think that's honestly crazy. Santos is a little bit more of a technician on the feet. She's a little bit more clean on the feet. Muay Thai style, snappy kicks, a little bit lighter on her feet than Ardelene. Ardelene, realistically, she's going to be the bigger female in this fight. She could definitely get takedowns and bully her opponents to the ground, which we saw her do against Shauna Mama B. Bannon. I don't think that happens here. I think Santos is the cleaner striker. I think that she's going to fight on the outside, and I think that Ardelene's going to really just struggle to get a hold of her opponent here. We have seen those Santos fight at a lighter weight class, so Ardelene could honestly get the takedowns here and clinch against the fence and pull off the big upset. That's why I'm not very confident here in dos Santos, but I just think that she's more live for the finish out of the two with her hands, and on the ground I think she has the better BJJ, so slight lean here to dos Santos. Not a very confident pick, however. And next up, we have Balaji Oki taking on Markel Medeiros. And I'm going to lean to Balaji Oki here. The only reason being is that Medeiros, to me, he kind of fights to the level of his opponent. We saw when he fought against Austin Hubbard that he didn't look too impressive in that fight. He was able to get an elbow cut against Austin Hubbard that ended up winning him that fight based on damage. But he was able to get taken down there against Austin Hubbard. And he kind of just, like I said, he fights to the level of his opponent. Where Balaji Oki, although he did lose in his last fight against Chris Duncan in the guillotine, he's shown aggression in his fights. He's shown a willing ability to go forward. I think he has the faster hands in this fight as well, the more athletic fighter. He's willing to pressure. He's willing to move forward, and I think that that's going to count, especially in the Apex and the smaller cage here. He can also mix in takedowns as another weapon. I just think Balaji Oki here has just got a little bit more upside. It is hard to be confident, though, as obviously you can tell, both of these guys lower level on the ascendance inside the UFC. So either guy I definitely think is live. I wouldn't hate a bet on Medeiros either, but I just think here that Balaji Oki is going to be able to get it done with his forward pressure and a little bit more speed in the hands. And next up, we have Jordan Levit taking on Kurt Hollibar. And I'm going to lean here ever so slightly to Jordan Levit. I feel fairly good, to be honest, in Jordan Levit. It's going to be more than a lean, actually. Jordan Levit, we know with him that he likes to come in. He likes to mix in the grappling. He likes to mix in the wrestling, and he looks for takedowns. He sticks to that game plan. Most of his striking really is just fundamental, but we know what he wants to do. He wants to get fights to the ground. Unfortunately for Kurt, the main weakness in his game realistically has always been his takedown defense. We saw in the Trey Ogden fight, he gets taken down and held down in multiple rounds there. And we know with Jordan Levit, he's going to keep going for those takedowns. He's good at taking the back. He's got good control on the ground. So I think once Jordan does get this fight to the ground, he's going to be able to ride out top position and ultimately win rounds, probably by a decision here. I feel fairly good that the Monkey King, Jordan Levit's going to be able to get it done. But I will say if this fight remains on the feet, I do think Kurt Hollibar is live for a knockout. He's the more aggressive, more fundamental boxer and striker here. But I'm going to go with Jordan, the Monkey King Levit, to get it done with the takedowns. And next up, we have Ketlyn Vieiraa taking on Macy Shasson, and I'm gonna go with Ketlyn Vieiraa here. I think that this is going to be a pretty boring fight, if I'm honest. A lot of clinching against the fence. Both women like to be size bullies in this division of bantamweight, but we've seen with Ketlyn Vieiraa that she's only really lost to the best women in the division. And in her last fight, where she lost against Kayla Harrison, I don't think there's any shame in that. Kayla Harrison is probably, or arguably, the best woman in this division coming over from PFL. She put up a good fight. She did get taken down a few times, but as the fight went on, she was able to keep the fight standing. Ketlyn's striking is very poor. It's almost like she's got weighted gloves. Her striking is very telegraphed, very lazy. But Macy Shasson a few years ago was talking about retiring. She likes to get into the clinch, even though she's 5'11". If she was a great sort of striker who threw a lot of straight shots, I would love Macy Shasson in this fight. But I just don't trust Shasson. I think Ketlyn's going to be able to bully her here. A lot of clinching, a lot of takedown attempts, a lot of sort of striking and kneeing and elbowing in the clinch here, maybe even some foot stomps. But I think ultimately Ketlyn Vieiraa gets it done here, as she's fought the much tougher level competition on her rise in the UFC. And next up, we have Trevan Giles taking on Andreas Gustiffson. And I'm going to lean ever so slightly to Gustiffson, making his UFC debut here. And if you haven't seen this guy fight before, this guy is a wild man. This guy is very, very entertaining. He's even openly admitted he's not very technical, and I'd have to agree with him. He really just likes to pressure forward wildly. He does leave his chin a little bit exposed. However, Trevan Giles, we've seen in the past, he just can't shake his opponents. He really just has a nice jab and decent footwork, but other than that, he isn't able to get the respect of a lot of his opponents. So I think here Gustiffson walks him down on a full camp, pressures him, gets him in the clinch, throws elbows, throws knees, which is what he liked to do in his Contender Series second round TKO victory. And I see very much the same here. And the thing with Trevan Giles is we've seen him get finished when he gets pressured by a lot of higher level guys. This is a big step down in competition for him. But I do think Gustiffson on a full camp and Giles taking this on about a week's notice is going to play a big factor here. Maybe Giles takes punches better at 180, which is a catch weight for this fight. But I like Gustiffson's forward pressure. I like his overall aggression and just the ability to make this a dogfight to get it done in this matchup. But not super confident. UFC debut can always be tricky. And next up, we have Japael Fialu taking on Aaran Narimento. And Japael Fialu this week, he is my dog of the week. I'll leave a link in the description for my dog of the week video highlight tape, a more in-depth breakdown for my dog of the week. But I like Fialu here. I think he's the better fighter everywhere this fight goes. Aaran Narimento coming off of a 2.5-year layoff. Narimento is probably the purer jiu-jitsu practitioner. However, I think Fialu, to be honest with you, I think he's the better fighter everywhere this fight goes. He's the harder hitter. He likes to mix in the striking when he is on the ground. I think he's the better wrestler as well. He's been more active. And this fight was scheduled for some time last year, but Aaran Narimento's had a 4-fight cancellation streak. So not being able to get over the hump when it comes to illnesses and injuries. So I think Aaran Narimento's going to have a little bit of ring rust here. Japael is a fast starter. He's very, very aggressive. I think he gets in his face here, and he might even get the finish. So give me Japael Fialu here in a medium-level confidence pick for my dog of the week. And next up, we have Zack taking on Dusco Toddorovich. And you can never be too confident in a Zack fight. Zack obviously has been known to be chinned before. He's got a little bit of a glass chin, but that's also the narrative on Dusco Toddorovich. Dusco has been finished multiple times now in the first round. I do think that Zack is the more live finisher here. He has the size advantage, the reach advantage. I would say that Dusco is the more pure striker, the more fundamental striker. Zack is also more live for a submission threat. He is very good off of his back, throwing up triangles and arm bars. Only a slight lean here to Zack as I do think that he's got the more finishing upside, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dusco Toddorovich pulls off the upset here to keep his job inside the UFC. But I do think that Zack is also very hard to trust, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of these guys gets knocked out in this matchup. Slight lean to Zack. And next up, we have Bruno Lopez taking on Dustin Jacobe. And I'm going to lean here to Dustin Jacobe, not very confident on this card, as you can see. And I think it's just hard to trust a 37-year-old Dustin Jacobe. Obviously, a kickboxing background. He's developed very good takedown defense inside the UFC. Bruno Lopez surprised a lot of people in his UFC debut when he fought against Gajiasulov, who's obviously a credentialed kickboxer. He was able to take him down. I think that Dustin Jacobe comes in here, fights on the outside, uses kind of the low kick, the jab, and just really just kind of moves around on the outside and just kind of picks some prods at Lopez. I wouldn't be surprised if Lopez kind of employs the same game plan that he did in his last fight, trying to mix in the takedowns. I just think that Dustin Jacobe is got a little bit better takedown defense in this style matchup. I think he ends up winning on the judges' scorecards. I would say, UFC Apex, smaller cage can definitely favor the grappler here in Lopez. I do think that Lopez has respectable striking, but not on the level of Dustin Jacobe. But like I said, only a slight lean here to Dustin Jacobe, as he is 37, and it is a little bit tougher to trust some of the older guys in this division. And next up, we have the fight that has kind of been thrown together last minute. We have Billy Ray Goff taking on Ramse Brahimi. And I'm going to lean to Brahimi here. I think Brahimi, to be honest with you, I think he's being underestimated here. In his career so far, he's been sort of very inconsistent. And that's been down to the fact that he had a ruptured tumor burst in his eye, which he had to get taken care of. He had to have spinal surgery, a back injury. And I think that now he's finally healthy. He's really putting it all together. My proof of that is that he was able to knock out Mickey Gall. And I know what you're thinking. Mickey Gall isn't necessarily a credentialed win, but he did look good in that fight. He looked a lot more comfortable on the feet. He looked like he'd been really working on his striking. The guy comes in great shape. He's always been fantastic on the ground. Trevan Luda product, obviously, so great BJJ. That's Kevin Holland's BJJ coach as well. One of the more decorated BJJ coaches inside of mixed martial arts. And he's also been training with Bilal Muhammad. So great wrestling, great training partners that he's been able to get. I think we see a resurgence here of Brahimi. And Billy Ray Goff has great forward pressure, but he does get hit a lot. We haven't necessarily seen too much of the wrestling out of Billy Goff. I think if this fight goes to the ground, Brahimi is very, very live. He's very good on the ground. But I also think that Brahimi's striking is being underestimated here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Brahimi pulls off the upset in this matchup. But really, just because this fight's been thrown together last minute, can't be too confident. And Brahimi is a big underdog, so maybe I'm not necessarily seeing this fight how a lot of other people see it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Brahimi gets it done here as an up-and-comer. And next up, we have Ludovic Klein taking on Mateusz Gamrot. And Ludovic Klein, to me, I like him in this matchup. We saw in Gamrot's last fight against Dan Hooker, he struggled to keep the fight on the ground. Dan Hooker, once he was able to get back up to the feet, he was able to hurt Gamrot to the body. And my whole thing with Gamrot, realistically, is that he likes to get fights to the ground, but he generally doesn't look for the finish. He's more of not necessarily a lay and pray, but he likes to get top control. He doesn't look for submissions and ground and pound. He's more of a get dominant position and keep you there, ride you out for a decision. Well, Ludovic Klein, I think that's going to be tough for him to do against, because Ludovic Klein has a 90% takedown defense. He's very, very good on the ground, very credentialed, but I don't think that Gamrot's going to have success getting this fight to the ground against Klein. And when it comes to the striking, Ludovic Klein stands southpaw. He's got a nice body kick, a nice head kick. He's a much cleaner, more dangerous striker. So give me Ludovic Klein here to get this done with the damage on the feet and keep this fight standing. And I think he's a great underdog this week. And next up, that brings us to the main event of the evening. We have Aaran Blanchfield taking on Macy Barber. And give me Blanchfield here, New Jersey's own. I think Blanchfield's 5-round experience is going to do her wonders here. She can push one hell of a pace. She's very, very tough. Obviously, very, very credentialed on the ground. She does lack wrestling to get fights to the ground, but we haven't seen Barber's takedown defense be that impressive inside the UFC. Obviously, I think that she's going to look to try and keep this fight standing against Blanchfield, but to me, I think Blanchfield's more than game on the feet. She does kind of enter the pocket a little bit wild, so she can get sniped on the way in, but I haven't seen enough out of Macy Barber's striking to make me believe that she's going to be able to get this done on the feet. I think Blanchfield's going to be able to get takedowns. I think that on the feet, it's going to be very 50-50, but give me Blanchfield here, as I think that she's got more paths to victory as a medium-level confidence pick. And that brings us to the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. If you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, here's some other videos for you. Like I mentioned, my dog of the week this week, full highlight reel tape of the dog of the week. I'll leave that as a video in the description for you guys to check out for Japael Fialu. And a full card breakdown is on this channel. Me and Carlos do a full card breakdown. If you're more interested in the detail of each individual fight as we break it down, that video is for you. And like I say, 15 minutes or less, full card breakdown, quick picks. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.